Hi, everybody. I'm Charlie Ekstrom of Stanford Beach Volleyball, and you're watching or listening to College Volleyball Weekly Beach Edition.
I'm Alana Rennie of University of Arizona Beach Volleyball, and you're watching or listening to College Volleyball Weekly Beach Edition.
Hi, I'm Kate Privett of TCU Beach Volleyball, and you're watching or listening to College Volleyball Weekly Beach Edition.
You tapped or clicked in to College Volleyball Weekly on Viral Volley Media. Now here's your host, Rob Espero.
All right, good day. I believe this would be episode 2 of College Volleyball Weekly Beach Top 20. And wow, it was an incredible first weekend, or first 2 full weekends so far, with me, Alana Rennie of Arizona, Charlie Ekstrom of Stanford, and Kate Privett of TCU. Exciting weekend. I'm going to throw it out to you guys, but what results stuck out in your eyes in this last, we'll say since last Monday? Last Wednesday. And we'll start with you, Charlie.
Yeah, so going straight off the bat, I think looking at the Pac-12 South tournaments as well as the Tampa tournament were the ones that I had my eyes on the most. There was a lot of action that happened in general, but I think my 2 matches to pick of the ones that were the standouts of the weekend were the TCU, Kate, win over FSU 4-1. I thought that was an awesome result for TCU. I don't know if anybody was really expecting it to go 4-1. And so I think that was pretty awesome for TCU. I think that they are a well-earned number 1 ranking this week. And I think the other match that I think the nation might have had their eyes on was the USC versus UCLA matchup, with which USC ended up taking 3-2, coming down to the threes, coming down to the third set. I think the final score was 17-15, with the edge ahead with USC taking that duel. But specifically in that match, I think something that stood out to me the most, and I think it's maybe one of the most inspirational volleyball performances I've ever watched, was Devin Newberry playing at the twos. She's had returned from a shoulder surgery last summer. She tweaked her shoulder a little bit and played out the entirety of her match left-handed, blocking one-handed, ended up pulling out a win to secure a win for UCLA. But I think I had tears in my eyes, goosebumps on my arm. That is one of the most inspirational games of beach volleyball that I have ever watched, is Devin Newberry's performance.
Oh, good call. It's a great social covering the match at Merle Norman Stadium in that USC-UCLA duel. But I want to jump over to Kate. We're going to jump to our semi-East Coast wrap, and then we'll go back to Atlanta.
I think Charlie hit a lot of the main points I had. I also was following mostly the Pac-12 South and the Tampa tournament. Obviously, she mentioned the big games, TCU, FSU, and then USC, UCLA. Those were 2 big games. But then there was also a lot of other big games at these tournaments. I saw that USC Stanford was super close, 3-2. I think USC Cal was 3-2. They're pulling out these 3-2s, which hey, good for them. But that's hard to do, to keep pulling out the 3-2s. So it's cool to see that a lot of teams are challenging them. And it was also cool to see Grand Canyon this weekend at the Tampa tournament. I feel we got to see a look of them on the East Coast, and they look really strong. So it was good to see them too.
Yeah. All right, Alana, what do you got?
Yeah, I completely agree with both of you guys. I think those were the 2 main tournaments that everyone was focusing on. I think going back on the 3-2s, it's interesting to see the different scores. I think there were a lot of 3-2s this weekend, but it was also interesting to see which teams had a sweep and which teams only lost one of their pairs and stuff, and won 4-1. So I think not only just the wins and losses themselves, but also the overall score actually is really, really interesting. And it's really nice with social media being able to keep up and follow all the scores and updates and everything. I know my team is pretty interested in what happens throughout the country. So we'll always send a text in the group chat when someone sees the results, and then everyone kind of talks about it a little bit. So it's really interesting, and it's only week 2. So I think it'll be a great season to follow along with.
So what I hear you saying is I should just get rid of Charlie and Kate, and we'll just have the entire Arizona team on, since they're already chatting about our results. Well, I was obviously watching the Pac-12 South, but I was trying to watch your match, Alana, over on court 3, and Charlie's was right in front of me on the number ones, but I had to focus on everything else. I kind of like all the results were thrown in my head while trying to watch the SC side of the Pac-12 South and what was happening down south by my home, which is the Best in the West, which hosted 3 Big West teams: Hawaii, Cal Poly, and Long Beach State. And what's interesting is Hawaii kind of got, we'll just say, handed a couple losses by Stanford in Hawaii the previous weekend. So I wanted to see how they're going to respond this last weekend, and they turned it on. They crushed everyone. So Brooke Van Sickle, former, we were talking about her in week 1, and actually Todd Rogers has a ton to say great about Brooke. She's just an exciting player to watch. You got Jamie Santer. Is it the Big West Player of the Week? Is it Cassidy Cowell? Is that correct?
Chandler Cowell.
Chandler, yes. And then they had just had really great performances. So I was interested to see how Hawaii would come off that weekend, and Hawaii being that they had to play Stanford twice, UCLA, and we'll just say they had a tough go, but they came back well. The other one that would really come my eye was obviously the USC UCLA matchup. Here I am working a men's indoor match, prepping for it. I've got this screen on the side of my other monitor, watching a live match and seeing the results, but that was pretty exciting. And it was pretty powerful, the way that came about, because you saw the scores dropping, 1-0, 1-1, 2-2, or 2-1, 2-2, and then came down to that 3 score. I felt like that was an old juniors matchup between Tesla Van Winkle, Perry Brennan, and then the Norris twins. So, they've all seen each other so many times. They were training against each other during COVID, which I thought was hilarious. But for the most part, that was an exciting ending to that. So I do have to say one thing. I should have done this in the get-go. Congratulations to Hector Gutierrez and his new little daughter, Lila, because I know he wasn't even at your duels this weekend. So the key is for TCU winning, get rid of Hector.
Yeah, he wasn't at this weekend or the weekend before, but we have a home weekend, so he'll be back. But yeah, he was texting us on the side, trying to watch us, but I think he was sad to miss it, but obviously so happy to have his second little baby girl. So
He's adding more to the Gutierrez household, so congratulations to him. Now, I'm curious, as you guys seen the athletes going on, even the Arizona chat board apparently, but what kind of buzz is going around based on these 2 weeks of results that we're seeing? And let's start with you, Alana.
Yeah, obviously there was a little bit of movement in the rankings and numbers and where everyone's standing, but I think it's going to be a very interesting season where anything can happen. I think USC did lose a lot of players last year. So I think this year everyone was like, oh yeah, UCLA's got them. And they just proved them wrong. And USC did have a lot of 3-2s this weekend, but they did pull out those wins with the 3-2s. So I think there will be a lot of movement, probably a little bit more throughout the season, but I don't think there will be super big jumps. So I think everyone will just slowly go up and down depending on the weekend, but I think it'll be super competitive this year.
Yeah. How about you, Kate? Thoughts on what the chatter is and the player buzz, we'll call it.
Yeah, I agree with Elena. I think a big thing was the USC UCLA match. Obviously people keep up with those 2 schools, but we expected USC I think UCLA was the heavy favorite, and just because of the depth they have and returning all those people, and USC is starting a lot of new players. So it was cool to see them pull it out. I'm also excited to see a lot of other teams, like we talked about, are challenging USC. There's been a lot of 3-2s coming down to the 3rd set. So I'm excited to see how long they can keep pulling off these 3-2s, or if they start beating teams by more. I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, that's probably the most noteworthy thing from the past couple weeks for me.
All right. How about you, Charlie? You're kind of in the thick of it, so
yeah, a little bit in the thick of it, as being one of those 3-2 losses. I think the thing that I am really excited about the most is that I think for the first time that we're seeing in NCAA beach volleyball, I think the title is really up for grabs. Like, obviously, we're seeing some dominance on the East Coast with TCU. You guys are kicking some booties out there, Kate. But I also think that with these West Coast schools, with so many 3-2s happening, with a heavy favorite not being able to pull out that win, I think that we're starting to see that the playing field is starting to level a little bit, which makes me really excited because I think that we're not going into, I mean, obviously we're 2 weeks into season, but I don't see it being a season where we go into the postseason expecting one person to shine on top above everybody else. I think that the title is really, really up for grabs this year for the first time, maybe ever in the history of NCAA beach volleyball. So I'm excited. I don't know. I'm excited to match up against USC again, because hopefully we can turn that 3-2 in our favor instead of having all 5 of our courts go to 3. But it should be good.
Yeah, I'm looking at the results from the Pac-12 South, and how does that loss for UCLA affect them going forward? Is that going to be considered a good loss to put the flame to the rear, because they were the early season preseason favorite for, I mean, almost every coach I spoke to in the preview episode and every player I touched, oh, it's UCLA, but here we have a 3-2 upset so early on. I mean, can we honestly call them upsets because how tight the talent is in the top 20? And let's start with you, Kate.
I think we can call it an upset. The talent was tight, but I do think most people were expecting UCLA to go ahead and take it. And I think UCLA can spin it wherever they want. I'm sure they're going to look at this as a learning experience, and they might not like to be on top. Now they have room to grow. And it's early in the season. So if they're going to lose, now's the time to do it. So this could light a fire under them, who knows? But I would definitely still call it an upset.
Yeah. Step over to you, Alana.
Yeah, I agree. I would definitely call this an upset too. I think anytime a lower ranked team beats a higher ranked team, it would be considered an upset no matter how close the competition is. I think it just makes it more exciting, and that's just what sports should be. But yeah, I also think that it'll light a fire under them, and they'll be coming back for some revenge in the next couple meetings.
Yep. And how about you, Charlie?
I would have to agree with my companions over here. I would say that it definitely classifies as an upset, but I would also say that it adds fuel to UCLA's fire. I think that could be one that classifies as a good loss. It's like one of those things where I believe the tables were turned last year, and I believe that UCLA beat USC around this time at the Pac-12 South tournament, or maybe at an LA tournament where there was a matchup. And I remember that it ended up lighting a fire, and I don't think USC dropped another match or dropped another duel for the rest of the season. So could we see that out of UCLA? Possibly. Do I want to see that out of UCLA? Not particularly as an opponent of them. But at the same time, I mean, I think that it's something to think about, that the tables have turned. They've been flipped on the other side before, where a heavy favorite has lost early on in the season and been able to take it later on. So if UCLA is looking at it as a way for them to fuel their fire, this loss is way better now than it is at the end of season. That's what we keep saying is, hey, I'd rather lose to a top ranked team at the beginning of season than I would at the end. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, it made for a lot of interesting matchups all last week, and even watching your guys's at, between the other schools in the Pac-12, Atlanta and Charlie Stanford team, there's some great battles. Washington came out, and as Alana has been calling since the preseason show, that's a team to watch, and they're rising up through the ranks. So Kate, we got to ask you, what's the buzz in the TCU locker now you guys are number 1?
We were excited because after beating FSU, we thought we'd be number 2, but we didn't expect UCLA to lose. So then once UCLA lost, we were like, who knows, they could put USC as number 1 because they beat number 1. So we weren't sure where it was going to go. We're super excited, but obviously rankings they don't actually mean that much. It depends on how you play. So we're going to have to, this will just motivate us to work harder and hold that spot.
Yeah. All right, here's the big question. I think Charlie's had the hardest time answering this one, but also a Pac-12 opponent. But Cal is really elevating their game. You know, seen them at the Pac-12 and even on Monday for the makeup duels against Long Beach State and Pepperdine. They're really strong. The twos pairs of Ainsley Riddell and Ashley Delgado. I mean, they keep doing it. You know, they had a tight loss to LMU in week 1, but since then they've just like pummeling people now. So wanted to get your guys' thoughts if you guys have played against them, what the buzz is on these athletes. Start with you, Charlie, since you're probably gonna have the hardest time with it.
No, I mean, I've played against Cal probably more times than Alana and Kate combined, maybe because of the fact that we've seen them so many times. So I'm super happy for Cal. I obviously, again, they're an opponent. I never want to see an opponent do great things, but something that I think Stanford Beach Volleyball and Cal Beach Volleyball that we've all taken in pride is that the last several years, we've always been very neck and neck with one another, but we've always been very neck and neck, middle of the pack. And I think you're starting to see that Cal and Stanford, as Northern California teams, are starting to really, really make a run for it and give these Southern California teams a run for their money. And we're pretty proud of it. I mean, if I could pick a team from the Pac-12 that's middle of the pack, I would pick Cal as one that I would want to see do well, because I mean, I know these girls very well. And they're doing really good things. I just hope that we end up on the edge above them, but at the same time, they're doing awesome things.
All right, let's get the Sandcat take on it. Alana.
Yeah, Cal they're very strong right now. They're very consistent. And I think I was moved up to twos for the match against Cal, and they didn't make a single mistake against us. That's what they're doing really well right now. I think throughout all 5 pairs consistently, they are not making mistakes. They're keeping the ball in play. They are doing things well. It might look a little unorthodox. I think sometimes it's a little crazy and a little hectic in terms of scrappiness and stuff, but they always are able to turn it around. And it's a little frustrating to play against because you want to get that point and they just won't let it happen. So they definitely make you work for every single point, and they're doing really good all throughout all of their pairs.
Yeah. How about you, Kate? I don't know if you've come across Cal in your career as a former Seminole, or
Yeah.
you had some ball.
Yeah, I've actually never played Cal in my career, but we're playing them this year, which I'm super excited to play Cal because I've been following them for years. But 2 of my teammates from FSU are actually they go to Cal now. They're both playing in the lineup, like C. McEwen and Liz Waters-Liga, and I think they've really helped contribute to Cal's success. So I'm super excited for them, and I'm happy to see the team doing so well, and I'm really excited to play them when they come out here, and it'll be really great to see how they do.
Well, one of the teams that we've kind of brushed over is Grand Canyon. They look really good. They've got some really good wins under their belts from the fall season, but they've only dropped 2 duels, one to USC and the other to Florida State. But what can we expect to see response-wise from Grand Canyon in these upcoming weeks? Because we all know they've got the tools 1 through 5 now. So let's start with someone who lives close to the Grand Canyon University, and that'd be Alana Rennie from Arizona.
Yeah, I think GCU is a very, very hungry team. I think, over the years, they've just tried to kind of prove themselves as a legitimate team. And now that they have done that, they just need to keep fighting. And I think, they don't lose a lot. And when they do, I think they are able to come back a lot stronger and really prove to everybody that they are able to compete and that's what they want. And, they're a pretty deep team this year. So I think they've got a lot to show for and really competitive, and they're a fun team to watch as well.
Yeah. How about you, Kate, the other purple team?
Yeah. They were in Tampa this past week when we were there. We didn't play them, but it was really fun to watch them. They, Allie Hansen, I think she got injured on Friday. So when they were playing Saturday, she actually wasn't in the lineup. So they had to move a couple of pairs around, but they were still were winning their games, and they still looked really good from 1 to 5. They're a really scrappy team, and I feel like they almost play a little bit unconventionally, like just, they're going to be scrappy and they're not going to give up. So I think that's what they're known for, and I think they're only going to continue to get better this season.
Yeah, good call. I was wondering what happened. I was looking at the box and I saw Allie's name drop out of the number ones, and although they did win, they had to move. Alana's played with Sarah Dixon at the ones versus Stetson and edged it out 3-2. And then for Florida State, they bumped Alana and Sarah to the number 2 spot, bringing Samaya Morin and Abby Hughes to the number 1. So I was like, kind of weird that shuffle happened, but Sarah Dixon was in the lineup. And like at the Pac-12 South, we saw one of the teams lost 2 girls at injury and they had to insert one random girl in the number 1 spot. So, they're trying to figure out the ruling. The officials were like, well, are they allowed to do that? She hasn't entered anywhere. So yeah, why not? So, but wanted to get you guys to take Charlie on GCU.
Yeah, I mean, GCU, I feel like I describe them with like 3 words, and I'd say like they're spunky, they're gritty, and they're loud. Like Kate was just saying that they play pretty unorthodox. I'd say that their loudness and their like scrappiness is so unique to their program. I feel like playing against GCU, you really don't forget playing against GCU because they make sure that you don't forget it. So I'm always impressed by the level of play that they bring. I think them losing Allie, I'm not sure the timeline on her comeback, but I think that she's a vital part to their lineup. And as long as they've got her back and they've got their lineup the way that they want it to look, I mean, I think that they're a super formidable opponent. So I really hope the best for any opponent that crosses GCU's path, but I know that they're out for blood this season and that they're ready to take some teams down. So I'm very excited to keep on staying with and following them.
Well, as always, I want to give you guys a chance to give an update on your teams, being that you're taking your time to talk about Collegiate Beach Volleyball. But let's give some updates on where your squads are at. Let's start with you, Alana.
Yeah, we're currently 5-2. Pretty good start. We're excited about it, but those couple losses do light a little fire in us, so we're excited to get back out there. Headed back to California this weekend to play Pepperdine and San Francisco, I believe. So excited to go out there and show what we're made of. And there might be a couple of changes here and there with some things. We're trying to still figure it out. It's still early in the season, but yeah, excited. Had a great week of practice this week, so excited to get back in it.
Are you at PEP or are you at USF?
We're at PEP in Malibu.
Good. It'll still be cold this weekend, so be ready.
Yeah, I know. It'll be all rainy and gross still.
All right. How about you, Kate? Update on your team and what's coming up for you this weekend.
Our team, we're doing great so far. We've had 2 undefeated weekends, which has been a really great start to the season. The team is gelling really well and we're having a lot of fun. This weekend we're home. We have Texas A&M, Kingsville, Southern Miss, and LSU coming, and we're actually playing LSU on Friday and on Saturday. So it'll be really good for us to see LSU because we haven't seen them at all this year, and they're in our conference. So it'll be a good challenge for us, and it'll be exciting to play them. They're always a good team, and yeah, we're just working hard and hoping to keep on winning.
Oh, so you're hosting them this weekend, I see.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, yeah. Any undercover streams or Instagram lives?
I think in past years, I know TCU has streamed on the Instagrams, and I think that we're doing that this year, but I need to double check.
Yeah, you can. I won't get it out there anywhere except for on this podcast and Instagram.
Yeah, there's like Instagram accounts for it, and I'm pretty sure we'll stream again.
Yeah,
but I'll let you know.
Yep. And CCSA pair of the week, Danny and Tanya.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Danny and
Tanya.
Tanya, they really did great this weekend. They didn't drop a set. They haven't dropped a set yet, so they're really doing well.
And then before I let Charlie go, the Pac-12 pair of the week is obviously Megatron and the direct message, or Megan Kraft and Delaney Maple. So I'm going to call it the direct message and Megatron. So, but give us an update on the Stanford Cardinal, Charlie.
Yes, I think that we are coming into this next week a little bit hungry for a little bit more. We did great this last weekend. We almost edged ahead with a victory against USC. Delaney and Meg edged ahead of Kate and I 15-13 in the third set to decide the match. Little bit of a knife in the heart, I'm not gonna lie. I love Delaney and Meg to pieces. They are an amazing team, and it was an amazing match. So got no hard feelings there, maybe a little bit of hard feelings because of the fact that it was such a close match, but they are such an incredible team to play against and to know as human beings. So absolutely fantastic job by them in USC this last weekend. But with that being said, we face them again this weekend in the Battle for LA tournament that will be going on at a bunch of different sites. I think we will be at Loyola Marymount and then USC the second day. So we've got a couple different venues that we'll be visiting this weekend. We face Florida Atlantic, Loyola Marymount, USC, and Cal Poly. I'm super excited for all of it. FAU is the team that knocked us out of NCAAs last year. So that's going to be a fun match just to start. And then the rest is going to be great building.
Well, you actually had some reinsertions to the lineup. You got Zelani Hodel back, I believe, this weekend, which is great for you guys. And I'm sure that Coach Fuller is shifting things around to get her worker back into or where she needs to be. That'll be most beneficial for your lineup. But she looked really good.
Yes, no, we're so happy to have Zoe back. We were bummed that she was sick that first weekend, but honestly, it's just been great having her back in the lineup and having her back and around. We love her to pieces. We love having her on the court to pieces. And it's been great. I mean, I think that there's still definitely a lot of lineup shifting to happen, as always happens with a season, but now that we're starting to see get better looks and see our lineup start to form, I think it's been very nice having Zoe back and still getting to work with everybody that we've got.
Yep. Well, a couple of other pairs of the week, and I've been just going off of social because going to the sites, I just realized the conferences aren't the greatest at that. So Sun Belt Conference Players of the Week, Destiny White and Alyssa Vuorinen, I believe it is. My goodness, I don't even have a school on there, but those are the names for that one. And then, of course, you've got the ABCA Pair of the Week, who happens to be the Pac-12 Pair of the Week, is Megan Delaney. And then for the Big West, Sydney Miller and Chandler Cassidy. And couldn't find the other ones. Trying to find the WCC, none to be had. So with that, this upcoming week, you had already mentioned Battle for LA, and I'm actually going to be at the third site. Let me see, and pull my schedule up here. UCLA, Cal Poly, and Grand Canyon on Saturday, then UCLA, Long Beach, and FAU. So I'll be watching that, but I want to know what you guys are watching because that's what matters most. And we'll start with you, Kate.
I think that's the main one I will be watching because there's a lot of good West Coast teams over there. I know on the East Coast, Florida State's off this weekend. So, and then LSU's coming to TCU. There's probably a couple other Florida tournaments, but the main one I'll be watching is that battle for LA.
Yep. All right, let's go to you, Charlie. What do you got?
With so many different teams coming to this Battle for LA, I think that I'm gonna have my eyes on this tournament, especially being a part of it. I'm really excited to play in it. I'm really excited to see who takes what games. But then I'm also really, really looking forward to this LSU versus TCU doubleheader dual matchup this weekend. I think that we haven't really seen much of LSU the last couple of weeks because of the fact that LSU's been hosting and they've been putting up the wins that they should be, but we haven't seen them get really, really challenged the way that TCU versus LSU is definitely going to be. So I'm going to have my eyes on that doubleheader for sure.
All right. How about you, Alana?
Oh, you took the words right out of my mouth. I'm very excited to watch that duel. Yeah, we have not seen a lot of LSU this year, and I do think they are a pretty different team than what we've seen in the past. So I'm excited to see how they're able to challenge TCU a little bit, and I think it'll be good for them to get a challenge themselves. But yeah, the Battle for LA will also be really entertaining, really interesting. Could come up with some other interesting scores like the Pac-12 South did this weekend, and it'll be really exciting and lots of competition.
Yeah. If I had to mention that there were duels today, as we probably just concluded just about 1 or 2 hours ago. The oh gosh, there's a really cool name for it, but it's being hosted by Georgia State, and had Florida State, Mercer, of course, the host, and I am missing one school off the top of my head here.
Coastal Carolina.
It is Georgia State, Florida State, Mercer, and Coastal Carolina. And Coastal Carolina actually, set school history. First time they're in the top 20 last week, but they had a tough go because they had other good teams in that particular duel or that tournament. So, but FSU unscathed in that entire one. And our favorite pair at Georgia State, Angel and Bella Ferrari, took a couple losses today to Florida State. I'm going to guess that is Paige Kalkoff and Maddie Anderson just didn't appreciate the one loss they got this last weekend. So I'd hate to be in their path.
Yeah.
With that, who would be your top players of the week that you got the buzz from? We've got the conference players of the week, but who are the top teams in your guys' eyes? Let's start with let's see. I see that the gears churning in your heads there. So I'm going to start with Charlie because she's ready to just throw it out there.
I think that I'm going to have to go back to my girls, Kelly Bellardi and Ashley Vincent, my all freshman duo at Stanford. They are still to this day undefeated at 12-0 now. We've played 12 matches. They've dropped 2 total sets. They've played between our 4s and 3s, and they dropped 2 sets on Saturday, being to USC and UW, but ended up taking the match. So they still remain undefeated on their entire careers, I guess now, which is kind of cool. Can't say I ever got to say that my freshman year, but they're doing amazing. So they would be my Pac-12 pair of the week or my national pair of the week because of the fact that I'm so proud of them. But I just want to say, going back to what I started with, my national player period of the week was Devin Newberry. I think that, again, her performance was so inspirational. And again, I aspire to play with that much heart the way that Devin did in that match against USC.
Yeah. All right. How about you, Kate? Who's your pair of the week?
My pair of the I was thinking my player of the week would probably, and maybe of the year, this far, would probably be Maggie Boyd, because she's also a freshman playing 1s and 2s at UCLA, and I don't think she's even dropped a set, which is pretty crazy to you're a freshman in the lineup, but you're also playing 1s and 2s and you're dominating teams, and UCLA has been playing hard teams. And what we were watching the game with her and Devin at the airport because it was on the Pac-12, and Devin was awesome, but Maggie also started optioning almost every ball and was siding out with her options, which that's hard to do. She stayed calm, and as a freshman, knowing your partner is hitting with their left hand and still being able to take over and help your upperclassman partner, I think that she has really been impressive this whole season. So she's my player of the week.
All right. Close out with Alana. Actually, I'm going to close out, but you get to go.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go back to Cal. I think their 2s with Ashley Delgado and Ainsley Riddell. I think they're a very consistent pair. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They're a really reliable pair for the Cal team to have in their lineup, and I think it's awesome. They're competitive. They are scrappy. They don't let things drop. They're frustrating to play against, but they're also really fun to watch, and you can tell their love for the sport and just how competitive they are. And I think they're a great pair.
Sounds good. I would pick a West Coast pair, but I don't want to be the homer. So I'm going to look to the East Coast, to the Conference USA, and FAU's Julie Hantsovachova and Ashley Adams. They were undefeated over the weekend, and actually are undefeated up until this point. So I'm looking forward to seeing them this weekend because, new names in the FAU lineup. We're used to seeing Mackenzie Morris and Erica Brock in that number 1 spot. So, and they're actually carrying the torch now, the number 1s for the Owls. So I'm really excited to see how they play against the gauntlet of Grand Canyon and UCLA and Cal Poly. So, going to be a big weekend in the Battle of LA. So, did we miss anything else this week? Like any more kids born or, milestone wins for any of you? Like, so Kate, you're at like 105 now after this last weekend.
I don't know. I'm not counting anymore.
Well, I appreciate you guys. That's Alana Rennie of Arizona, Charlie Ekstrom of Stanford, and Kate Privett of TCU. Always rocking the mic and the video screen in. Here are the College Volleyball Weekly Beach Top 20. Looking forward to chatting with y'all next week, but most importantly, go get it this week.
Thanks for listening to College Volleyball Weekly. Be sure to follow Rob Espero at the Rob on the Mic on Instagram and at Rob on the Mic on Twitter.